Hey guys, how are we doing? Crypto Insight UK here, bringing you back another YouTube video. So to start with, we're looking today at total market cap of crypto. This is something we discussed in depth in the newsletter last week, and what we basically said is um, we've bounced off previous all-time high weekly closes, holding this as support, and I know people are drawing out head and shoulders here, which there is an argument for, yet I'm looking at a coiling RSI, and you can say, oh yeah, bearish divergences on the RSI as the weekly makes higher highs and the RSI makes lower highs. This is bearish divergence. Um, but and the big but here is on the opposite side of that, the weekly lows are making higher lows and the RSI is making lower lows, which I think is a bullish divergence. Last time I checked, let's see. Bullish divergence on the RSI. And so you've got conflicting, here we go, look, hidden bullish divergence. You've got conflicting divergences here on the RSI. I essentially think this is just coiling up. I think the momentum's coiling up, ready for a larger break to the upside. Momentum on the weekly is down to where we were literally at bear market lows. Look, if you just follow the bottom of the screen here, in fact, I'll enlarge that to show you. This is bear market lows. Well, this is where we are right now. We're literally at the same area as bear market lows on the weekly RSI. At the same time as bouncing off weekly previous resistance from 5 years ago for the total market cap of crypto. So let's discuss whether this is a bottom and what I'm looking at specifically. I'm going to go through a few different things. I'm going to start with ETH. ETH I'm pretty bullish on, and I'm just going to take us to the 3-day to break this down. I've discussed this as well in the newsletter and also over there on X. What I've said is the 3-day ETH chart hits, let's just move my, there we go. When the 3-day ETH chart hits oversold, it's been like a pretty decent area to buy. It's marked the bottom pretty much on the last 2 out of 2 occasions, going back to the recent highs in 2021. It's also been when we've been at the bottom of this like wedge pattern or ascending trend line. It's also been a decent time to add. Now we're not at that level in terms of we're not at the bottom of the trend, but we have pulled back into a major area of support just as the 3-day doesn't quite come into the oversold area, but it does kind of get close. And other times where it's got close are this occasion here. I'll just show you with a brush. It's here, which is this, and the other next occasion is here, and then this is the next time. So what you can see is during these times, yes, there is consolidation, but they do actually result in a move to the upside. So let's just take the middle of this range as an example, because not easily to catch the exact bottom. 148% move there. Let's take the middle of this range as well. 61% move there. And then from the 3-day oversold areas, again, middle of the range to the actual highs, 278%, middle of the range-ish, the actual highs, 200%. So we're looking somewhere between like 60% and 250%. So let's just say even 100% average move, just for ease of maths. It will take us to new all-time highs, $6,500 ETH. Don't think that's unreasonable. I think once you complete this wedge, you are looking for the discussion of the range of the wedge for the technical pattern. Okay, so why is all this important? We've also got the bullish cross on the 3-day, and when that bullish cross has come in, it has signaled the start of this up move when it's come in from ranges similar to where we are now. Just something to consider as well. Okay, so this leads me on to ENA. This is the token that we've traded in the past, and I've also placed this trade on. I'm going to take us down to the lower time frames to discuss what I'm seeing here for ENA. So what we'll do is to take us to the daily first. What we can see is we're in a clear downtrend marked by this descending trend line with lots of local highs which will have liquidity built above them. And what I said to people was when we got into this area here, somewhere in here, start DCAing. If you want to buy like spot, or if you want to have a larger position on ENA, this is a good area to be really starting to add to your bag. We played this area once before here, if you guys remember, and we took profit at 48 cents a little bit early. It did continue higher, but we really accumulated, and here was one of my best trades last year, and we made about 100% on our position. It was fantastic. We bought spot. And I said, look, if you want to do the same thing, do that here, and then start like laddering out at each of these like swing highs or like local highs. What I'm personally doing is, if we take us down to 4 hour, I'm going to discuss a few things here. So 4-hour time frame, and this applies to ENA, but it also applies to like a lot of alts at the minute. So this is why it's important that I'm discussing this. We came down, we found that, so this is ENA specific, but we found the absolute bottom of the range. So I'll just take us to the daily so I can just show you exactly what I'm talking about before I go back into the 4-hour. So we've got this range. In my opinion, this is the range. Range low was formed here. We deviated the low of the range, came up and then set the range highs. Came back down, retested that range low. And then we did have a push, but didn't make a high. So what we're doing right now, again, is testing these range lows. At the same time, what we're seeing is a bit of an uptick in momentum, showing that momentum to the downside is waning. This is the sort of pattern that you want to see. You want to see, okay, cool. It does look like wherever you take this trend line, you could say, look, that trend line was violated there. We came back and now we're looking for high lows. Or you could say, look, this trend line is a bit like this on the RSI. But wherever you put it, we're essentially saying, you can, and the reason I put the trend line there is just to show that the strength of the momentum to the downside is changing. So it's becoming less strong of a move to the downside. So that means we're at range lows as well in terms of technically price. So we're looking for entries. And my entry is here. Why is that? Well, we've got our build-up of highs now, which we haven't still yet to violate. We've come up, we've pushed into that area. We've actually made a lower high on the RSI. We've made a slightly higher high in price, so that's bearish. Right at range high, 4-hour range highs. And what I think could happen here is, even though we did make a higher low here, which shows there is some strength, at least from bulls, I do think there is a possibility we come below this range, we deviate, we sweep the lows, hopefully get entered into our trade, and then we really start this rally. That's what I'd be looking for, a sweep of these lows, and then a push out, and hopefully, well, if we can hold it all the way, push all the way up to like 120 would be fantastic. And I do think that sort of move comes. I think ENA is a beta play on ETH. I think people are overlooking, and I've spoken about before, the $7 billion stablecoin they've got when the market cap of ENA is like 1 point something billion. People are disliking it for many of the narratives. Oh, it's like Luna 2.0, blah, 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 blah. Luna 2.0 or whatever, Luna did pretty well until it went kaput. And I'm not saying that's a reason to buy ENA, but I do think people overlook that, and hopefully we've learned some lessons from last cycle, and even if we haven't, we should see it rally pretty well. But I don't want to buy ETH because I think that the ETH returns are kind of muted in terms of percentage, because it's so large in market cap. But looking for an ETH beta with hit the stablecoin narrative, the DeFi narrative, and is like a newer token, so lower float, even though there is tokens still being unlocked and coming into circulation, which is one potential negative and a potential reason why we may not hit the top of the range, because obviously there's more circulating supply. But I just think that risk to reward, an entry here at like somewhere in the 20s, like low 20s. So I'm bidding like 21.5. Just makes a lot of sense. It doesn't mean it's going to come through. It's a very high risk reward trade. 35 to 1 means you could take this trade 35 times and you only have to get it right once. And when you're at range lows with everything that I've just shown you, like, what's the probability of us getting this right? Maybe like 30%. So let's divide the odds of the trade by 3s, making it a 10 to 1 trade, meaning you're massively positive EV on the trade. And it also depends on like how crypto is doing generally or more broadly. And we're looking at Bitcoin for that. I think Bitcoin's starting to show some strength. I'm not saying that we've definitely bottomed. We've made a higher low with a bullish engulfing candle and a bullish cross from the daily RSI. Let's have a look on the 3-day in our major support area. The 3 days looking to cross bullish. Last time we got a bullish cross was from this sort of area or anywhere near this sort of area, because obviously Bitcoin tapped the oversold area on the 3-day. Last time we got the bullish cross on the 3-day was here, which is like just before we marked the bear market lows. So we are oversold massively on the 3-day RSI. So the momentum to the downside has got too much, and there will be a relief rally, and I presume it will be aggressive at some point, because when you get oversold like that, you do normally have these rebounds to the upside. So let's see if we can just first get like a little bit of a push back down into this major support area, try and get rid of some more of that sentiment, people who have jumped in bullish the last few days and potentially gone long a little bit too early. And I don't know where that might take us. It could just bring Bitcoin price back into this fair value gap here. Could do that, could come a bit lower. could come down and sweep these lows again. People will be looking for higher low structures. Obviously, we make a higher low, a higher high, potentially looking for a higher low here. But even this sort of bleed out in price could be enough to send ENA to the lows of the range, anywhere between like a 5% drawdown to a 3.7% for the higher low structure to continue. 5% on Bitcoin. Let's say at the minute ENA is moving at a multiple of 5. That could be a 25% drawdown over. I don't know if that would take us in. So yeah, 25% would be about perfect to take us into our trade if it continued at the same loss versus Bitcoin strength. Let's see if that happens. We're just looking for that sort of thing for this trade specifically. I know I've talked about ENA a lot, but I'm just talking about market structure generally is what I'm trying to say. Going to look to XRP now. We're going to just discuss what's happening with XRP. Similar story on the RSI. Like what you can see is RSI has been bouncing around. I'm going to make a box. Bouncing around this sort of range look. We've made highs and lows, but we haven't managed, and we're struggling to gain any upside momentum, but we're not right in the mud on the downside either, showing that like the momentum for the downside isn't massively strong. We've just sort of not really got any buyers either. So as price bleeds out on other assets, price with XRP bleeds out, yet we still hold 7-year resistance as support at like 191. We still have created higher lows here from the low, a higher low, and then not quite a bullish engulfing candle here, but some strength. And what we're going to see is potentially a bit more bleeding, a bit more chopping for XRP until we start to violate this downtrend. That's when I'll start to become more bullish and upbeat on XRP. But until then, look, what we're doing is similar to what I was discussing on ENA, and I'll show you with some horizontal lines, horizontal rays. What we're doing is, I'll make these a different color actually. We're creating a series of like highs above us, which will add as, well, they are resistance, but they also could and will act as like springs in liquidity at some point. Because what will happen is when we do get some strength, and we will, like there's at least going to be a relief rally, and I obviously think we go to all-time highs for the market generally, and also for XRP and for Bitcoin, etc., etc. But what you're seeing here is, yes, bears in control, but when you start to see a bit more strength come in, which could be suggested to have started now with a higher low off the bottom, even though I actually do think we probably come down, sweep the low, and bounce maybe at like in the 190s again before we go higher, just because I think, and I want the ENA entry. What I think you'll see is when we start getting some real serious buying pressure come through, you'll squeeze. These are all going to have stop losses above for short positions. People are rolling their shorts, and then you'll squeeze that stop, and then you'll squeeze that stop, and then that's going to trigger this stop, and a continuation into the yellow lines above us. And that's how you can see these trends reverse quite quickly, especially when price has been just going downwards basically since mid-July, and everyone's depressed. And that's kind of why when XRP does make these moves, it's pretty aggressive. You start to break out, and then what you'll see is people, because the trend is so strong in terms of holding this range above previous resistance, what you're going to start to see is, oh shit, is XRP going to go on to do another leg? I'm not fully allocated. I thought it was going to drop, blah, blah, blah. Sentiment's been low. It's been easy to be in a short because we've been pulling back. This is one of the reasons I don't fuck with my spot bags too much, because as soon as like one high gets violated, you can very quickly see yourself back at $3, $3.60, and all of a sudden you're thinking, oh, are we going to break out now? I'm not fully allocated. I thought we were 50% down from the all-time highs, and I thought we were going to continue to go, and I was making a great trade by selling my bag, and then I'm going to buy back lower. That's what I think happens. I think we start to get that, and then that adds fuel to the fire because people then rebuy, and we potentially head to all-time highs. And that is what I think comes for XRP. I know a lot of people don't agree. I know a lot of the sentiment's crap out there at the minute. I get it, but it's my opinion. I think that this is what happens. I think that we are holding this range high as support, and we have been for a little while. We have been for like a year. I don't think you can argue with that. RSI is in the mud, nearly as low as it was like our literal bear market lows from, well, not bear market lows because they were down here, but like close to be fair. Like there's only been one other occasion where we've been as low as we are right now on the RSI and the weekly. Let's have a look at the 3-day. I haven't really looked at the 3-day RSI for XRP. It's pretty low in relative terms, guys. We are looking for at some point a relief rally, and that's, as I said, can compound into more strength. And this pattern's, like, in my opinion, it's not weak. I know people are, and you could make the argument for distribution, but I don't see distribution, and you can't confirm it until we start to set significantly lower lows, probably more like the 150 area. I know that doesn't help people too much, but I don't think we see that until we see another leg for XRP taking us towards 8 to 12, potentially all the way up to 13, like I've got here. Even on our liquidation wick, we just came back into this area of support, touched it, and bounced all the way back into our range, and then held the range after that so far. So we're waiting for a catalyst. We're waiting for, and I don't know what the catalyst may be. It could be macro. The macro feels negative at the minute. Yet, I will say this. This is quite important. I'll take us to the daily. Macro feels negative. However, equities are literally flirting with all-time highs again. Even though everyone was literally calling for Goblin Town here, all of a sudden, equities in the US are at, or the S&P is at 684 or 6,840, depending on which, like, if you use the SPX or SPY, whatever. But 683, 684, we're going to open at that again today. We need one solid day to push the equity market to all-time highs, which is kind of crazy, 0.89% away. This is something that not enough people are taking into consideration, in my opinion. The Russells, all of a sudden, like back there, we probably have violated all the fib levels. I don't know for sure, but let's just have a look. We might not have. Well, we're right at. Oh no, we have violated all the fib levels. Have been closed above. We're above the 786. It's all-time highs, game on for equities. And at some point, I believe that translates into crypto. Again, I don't know when. I would hope ENA big gets filled first, because that's just me being greedy on my positioning, although I'm sitting mainly in spot. But yeah, that's basically my thoughts on the market right now, like as a whole. I used ENA a lot in this chat, because in this video, because I wanted to show that I think ETH looks pretty strong. We haven't looked into liquidity, but I've tweeted about it, so you can go and check that out. And I'm going to talk about it in the newsletter tomorrow. But ENA looks, I think, will outperform ETH. It's more volatile than ETH, and that's my play in like the ETH as an ETH beta. XRP's just waiting. We want to see some positive catalyst, and I think Bitcoin's got a rally in it. But whether we have a little pullback first, another few percent maybe into the high 80s, mid to high 80s before we take this leg up, I wouldn't be surprised. Bottoms are notoriously difficult though. There you can see wicks to the downside. You can all of a sudden see a spike and then start to just like not look back. Difficult areas to play, and as I said with ENA, like if you're looking to buy for a medium term hold, like this thing looks decent for dollar cost averaging at these levels. I've shown you why I think that. Doesn't mean it's definitely going to happen. It's my opinion. But we played that pretty well at the start of the year, for those who remember. The last and most frustrating one so far to me is Litecoin. We would have got the perfect fill had I actually traded that, and I would expect. Well, the issue is that Litecoin could sweep the lows of the wick that it put in on October 10th, especially if Bitcoin lost 5% quite quickly. But again, that discussion's a difficult one when you see the S&P. We're looking for a catalyst to really kick this reversal off, because I think we go to all-time highs. I'm not saying that we just rip it to all-time highs, but although I'm not putting that out of the question either, because I think a lot of people are overweight to the short side, and that's shown by momentum, and it's shown by all the continuous lower highs that we put in, and they can be violated quite quickly, and I've just explained why. But yeah, hope you enjoyed the video. Also, go and check out, if you like Flare Networks, go and check out Firelight. I'm not paid by them in any way. I just have started to stake a little bit there. It's a new product. There always is a massive risk associated with that. But I will be adding more to my stake when the limit increases. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video. Guys, if you did, please hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and share it with a friend. Please do subscribe to my weekly newsletter, The Weekly Insights. Free to do so. If you want to trade in any leverage, check my link to WEX and MEXC in the description below. And as always, nothing I say is financial advice, but I hope you enjoyed. Peace up, A-Town down, as Crypto Insight UK would say.